Would you be grossed out by the original bet? The novel version of Harden ends up being sent to prison. Tessa's actual personality had to be rewritten to pass censorship. Today, we talk everything the movie directors did not want you to see. A different bet? Yep, you heard that correctly. The one catalyst that made the whole story happen had to be rewritten for the movie. And here's why. The original story of Harden and Tessa escalates when the bad boy is challenged to get the good girl into bed with him. Not a single word was spoken about that elated feeling of love. Let's be honest, making a bet like this is not a very gentlemanly thing to do in the first place. But the initial dare was not meant to go as far as making Tessa fall for the guy. That would be too much of a stretch. Harden's friends had way lower expectations for him, even though he was a known heartthrob. In the books, the guy was only meant to have what we call a one-night stand, rather than drag himself into some long-lasting romance until L-bombs are dropped. Yikes, I know, but that's not even the worst part. In the books, not only does Harden get exactly what he wants, but he goes as far as trying to pay off his friends to keep their lips sealed about all the dirt he told them. As opposed to the movie, where Harden keeps his relationship to himself, spilling no intimate details about the night. The showrunners had to make the plot less cruel to maintain a wider audience. But are you still Team Harden after all? They don't end up together in the end. Didn't you feel like the movie left on a cliffhanger? That final scene with the two sitting on the bridge after Harden's heartbreaking apology letter was hella ambiguous. Will she forgive him? Can he change for good? What does the future hold for them? Until the release of the second part, After We Collided, fans were left wondering if the two lovebirds would get a second chance after all the drama. The After writers clearly could not miss out on a chance to make a franchise about teen love though, and kept all the clues to themselves. Gotta keep those viewers wondering, am I right? But the books have a more clear-cut ending, with Tessa literally being done with all the BS her first love has put her through. And that leads us to a wholly different love triangle. A Harden, Tessa, Zed love story? Forget about all the fucking Trevor ventures. How about Forsaken by Everyone Zed? This poor guy was cut out of the movie big time, along with several other characters. So keep watching to find out who. The after-film adaptation totally turned Harden's frenemy Zed into more of a reappearing character. He loses the bet and barely brings any substance to future scenes. A totally different story happens in the After We Collided novels. To the movie fans' surprise, Zed develops strong feelings for Tessa and keeps pursuing her despite Harden's disapproval. In between the emotional roller coaster of fights and never-ending breakups, Tessa kisses Zed. Now, you can guess where that little slip-up leads. When Harden finds out the truth, he violently attacks Zed and gets sent to prison. Wow, those 2,500-page Wattpad fanfics are no joke. Seeing all that, why does Tessa stay? A badass Tessa? Now, let's reveal all the major differences the star of the show, Tessa Young, went through. The movie portrays Tessa as a way more independent girl who actually makes her own decisions, despite her young age. She slowly matures by the end of the film, taking control of her life, moving out of Harden's place, being civil to her mom, and organizing her life like the adult she becomes. All that is opposite to the novel version, where Tessa is easily manipulated by her love interest. Harden even got her to sign a lease when she moved in with him, so she could not leave. Now, on-screen Tessa is not some young, silly girl who would agree to any of those things. She is strong in herself, and despite some minor fuck-ups we all do, she actually grows to set her boundaries. While Josephine Langford did an amazing job recreating the innocence and physical appearance of the character, the rest of the cast was an upgrade. What happened to Harry Styles' look? With Harry Styles being the sole inspiration for the After fanfics and further novels, one should wonder what kind of Styles inspiration did Anna draw this guy from? The first pages of the novel give an unambiguous description of Harden as a brown-haired guy with thick waves. And that look clearly went into the trash when Anna Todd did the casting. The writer actually refused to go to the casting because she thought hero Tiffin was the ultimate Harden. On top of that, the original Harden screams bad boy with his piercings, massive tattoos, and black leather to top it all off. The mismatch did raise a fair amount of backlash from the die-hard fans for muting his look so much in the movies. And we can all agree, Hero's Harden looks nothing like that. I mean, you can barely see his tats on screen, even with his shirt off. Many fans expressed their disapproval, saying Harden looks like just another attractive guy, and that the film completely erased the contrast between him and Tessa that the novels emphasized. The difference between them that made the union impossible, yet so desired, is gone. You would absolutely hate the original Harden. Now, this is a guy your mom told you to avoid at all costs, and for a reason. If you've never laid your eyes on the novel's pages, you've only seen a toned-down version of Harden. I mean, how can you not be drawn to a mysterious bad boy with a gloomy past and internal struggles? The audience is meant to fall into a pitfall, trying to sympathize and console him. Oh, little did we know, the real Harden is far from this image. Try an abusive, violent, manipulative guy with a potty mouth. The original story has way more broken vase scenes and fighting incidents. The novel portrays Harden struggling with intense anger issues from his childhood trauma that he definitely never recovered from or even realized he had to work through. You would not feel sorry for Harden, let alone fall in love with a guy like this. Tessa slowly becomes a rehabilitation center for his lost and forsaken by his family soul. The relationship dynamic was so toxic and inappropriate for the screen, the producers had to change the narrative. I mean, you can't romanticize violence for views. In the end, you just get a moody teen with occasional tantrums everyone gets in the way of. But Harden was not the only one whose personality was rewritten. Carol Young is not that lovely? Ever see a movie where a teen doesn't go through some drama with their parents? Watching the movie, Tessa's mom, Carol Young's tantrums, makes so much sense. She is just a caring parent who wants to protect her daughter's life from being shattered by teen angst. We see Tessa fight for her boundaries, taking her life into her own control. And then, as she matures into an adult, she makes up with her mother. Despite everything, Carol stays respectful and understanding towards her daughter. They even have a bonding scene apologizing to each other for their past mistakes. Not in the books, though. What Todd had in mind when writing the story was more of a control freak than just a protective mother. In fact, the book version of Carol was awful, making Tessa's life insufferable every time she showed up, to the point where Tessa could not even go home because of the massive friction between them. Mother-daughter candid conversations and growing into besties were definitely not a thing in the book. Diversity and representation weren't in the book. Were you also puzzled to see Pia Mia portray Tristan, Tessa's roommate and Steph's partner? That's because in the original novel, Tristan is actually a guy, and there was no lesbian couple in the original story. It's been years since the first fanfic was written, so a lot has changed. And so has Anna Todd. The author of the novel said that if she could go back, she would have written more diverse characters. One way to redeem herself was to make Tristan a girl in the movies for LGBTQ+ representation. Anna explained to her loyal fans, "I feel like it makes so much sense. We need to be more diverse in race, in sexuality. It just fits, and it makes perfect sense for me." The same thing happened to Professor Soto, who was also originally a male, which didn't really affect the story much, but added more strong females to the narrative. Kudos to that! Similarly, Landon was no longer a white guy like in the books, which even added to a comedic bit in the movie, like the moment when Landon says he and Harden are brothers, clearing it up with, well, stepbrothers. Now, speaking of the characters' storylines that were altered for the movie adaptation, some weren't so lucky. Molly was left out of the movies. One of the many characters that did not get to live to her full potential is Molly. Despite showcasing her evil side and destructive nature of her character in pursuit of personal benefit, Molly in the books is actually a lot worse. After being friends with benefits with Harden, it's no wonder Molly was on a mission to ruin his relationship with Tessa. Unlike the film version, the original Molly knew how to push people's buttons and was incredibly good at provoking Tessa and making her lose all control over her emotions. Yep, neither version is very likable, but believe it or not, it could have been a lot darker. With a separate chapter dedicated to Molly in the Before book, who knows? Maybe we will get to see more of Anna Sarkis in the upcoming movies. Uncertain about her career in the movie? Now, one of the details that didn't really make sense to change was Tessa's career path. For some unknown reason, the screenwriters made Tessa start her major in business and economics, only to realize by the end of the school year, she actually wants to try herself as an intern in a publishing company in the second movie. A pretty drastic switch, don't you think? The book version shows less of a bumpy road for Tessa. In the novel, Landon and Harden cross Tessa's path because all of them are English majors and are set on the path of being writers from the start. 50 Shades, but make it PG. And finally, we couldn't just not mention the fact that the original novel is very, very descriptive. The novel is built on explicit language, graphic sex scenes, and way more moments that would never pass the censorship test. To make this movie go further than just an idea, the writers had to reduce all the spicy scenes to passionate making out and polished language. Now, let us know in the comments below which one you prefer more, the story from the movies or the novels. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more relatable content, and as always, thanks for watching.